just so that everyone who isn't able to attend today will send them the recording so they can be caught up. I just want to thank you folks all for taking the time to be here and participate in this core working group. It's just really an honor to work with all of you. You folks have been identified as just key people in this community, people who care for Aina, people who are familiar with this place, people who really have valuable ike that can help to inform this management plan. And so we're really excited to work with all of you. I first just kind of wanted to start with introductions. So if everyone could go around the room and just say your name, who you're representing today, and what your favorite thing to do is along the Kaiwi coast. So I'll start us off. My name is Rachel Kapule. I'm representing Townscape today. My favorite thing to do along the Kaiwi coast is actually go more at nighttime, and that's just more so to gather some of my favorite coastal foods. I'll pass it along to Gabby, then to Dylan, and then I'll type of order in the chat so you guys know who's coming next.
Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you folks. I'm Gabby from Townscape, and my favorite thing to do along the Kaiwi coast is really to paddle along it and then look up, and you can see just the raw landscape. So, Rachel, I'm Dylan.
My name is Dylan. I'm representing Townscape today, and Gabby stole my answer. It's also to paddle along the Kaiwi coast.
Elizabeth, you're next.
Oh, okay. Elizabeth Riley. My favorite thing to do on the Kaiwi coast is to walk along the shoreline and then a short distance away, walk up Mauka on the trails. So it's that combination of that wild and natural, close proximity of Mauka, Makai. I could never pick one or the other. It's the combination.
Aloha, my name is Luca. I am here on behalf of the Hawai'i Kaiwi, and my favorite thing to do along the coast is to watch all the birds.
Hi, my name is Cassidy. I'm also with Livable Hawaii Kaihui, and I think my favorite thing to do is hang out with my friends at Malu, go to the beach. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Hawkins. I'm with HTMC and Livable Hawaii Kaihui, and whoever else wants, I can volunteer for. And I think I like to go anywhere Kaiwi coast, Mauka, to just slow down and just connect with the land. And I'm a photographer, so I look for native plants and getting photographs. So it's just my happy place.
Hi, my name is Van. I work for the state of Hawaii DLNR, and I guess my favorite thing is seeing Kaiwi Coast from above, from the mountain. I think I got to do that with Elizabeth. It was nice to see it from that vantage point. Not everyone can do that, so that was nice.
Aloha mai kako, I'm Kamala Ka'apana. I'm born and raised in Maunalua, and then I also work for the Trust for Public Land. For me, what I recently started was actually gathering pa'akai at Avavamalu, and so you kind of kilo and watch the waves and how it sprays onto the rocks and the sun, and hopefully you just get there before it dries too much. So you just gotta find that sweet spot where it's flaky, just enough to gather pa'akai. Yeah.
Aloha, my name is Kealapono Richardson. I'm with the City and County of Honolulu with the Department of Land Management. I am the program manager for the Clean Water and Natural Lands Fund. My favorite thing to do is to make it out there before sun rises and watch the sky lighten up and then the sun come up in the mornings. And I think Todd is next.
My kako. My name is Todd Gray. I'm a land asset manager with Kamehameha Schools. I manage agriculture and conservation and residential assets in Mauna Loa. I think my favorite thing, a bunch of people said things that I enjoy doing, but I enjoy standing Mauka and looking Makai, and just looking at the whole landscape, and even from a historical perspective, just to see the changes, some good, some bad, and just always thinking how we can improve. Mahalo. I think Anne Marie is next.
Hi, can you hear me? So my favorite thing actually be in the future, I'm going to follow Kamuela and sell his pa'akai. So that'll be my new thing. Thank you.
Jennifer, if you could just say your name, who you're representing, and your favorite thing to do along.
Hi, yes. My name is Jennifer Tom. I'm with Women's Schools. I'm an asset manager. My favorite thing about Mauna Lua is just the breadth of diversity of different types of geography as well as Aina within the area. That's my favorite thing.
And Amanda.
Aloha, Kako. My name is Amanda Zepeda, and I'm here today on behalf of City Council Chair Waters. I think one of my favorite things has been mentioned, just the whole stretch, just really sort of taking it in as you drive, and then any opportunity to just stop and sort of take it all in. It's definitely one of my favorite areas around the entire island to just take it in and just take a moment to stop and breathe and appreciate all that we have here. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. I think that was everybody. It's so exciting to hear that you guys all love the Kaiwi Coast. That'll make this project really easy. I'm gonna just start with a quick presentation. So let me just share my screen. And then if any questions pop up while I'm presenting, feel free to put them in the chat, and then Gabby can respond to those. Yeah, so as you folks know, this is our first of 6 core working group meetings for the Kaiwi Coast Mauka land. So that's those 2 parcels that are highlighted in yellow. For today's meeting, we prepared about a 15-minute presentation where we'll go over the history and the background of these lands, and then the purpose of this management plan. Then we'll open up for discussion and hear from you folks about any issues or concerns that you might have, as well as answer any of your questions on this project. And then we'll just kind of quickly wrap up and let you know what the next steps are. So here's a close-up view of those 2 parcels, just so you guys are oriented. So north is at the top. This is Makapu'u Beach. Then this over here is Kalanianaole Highway. We have Hawaii Kai Golf Course right here. And then this is the Makapu'u Lighthouse Trail. So a little history on these lands is that they're actually the last large tracts of land that were set aside for development by Henry J. Kaiser. And so at that time, there had been a lot of plans for development. They actually wanted Kaiwi to be almost like the next Waikiki, with resorts and beachfront condos and ridgetop homes. And I think the most recent plans for these Mauka lands specifically were to develop 180 vacation cabins on these 2 parcels, with everything from volleyball courts and tennis courts, swimming pools, and even mountain biking trails. And, you know, luckily the community came together and said that we don't want this, and they stopped that development. And actually we have a number of people, maybe even in this meeting, as well as others who were invited to this meeting, that we have to thank, because they were part of that movement to stop the development along the coast. So after those Kaiwi cabins, the opportunity came up to purchase these lands. And so with the help of the Trust for Public Land, Livable Hawaii Kaihui acquired these parcels in 2017 with the purpose of preserving this land in perpetuity. So they do hold a conservation easement over these lands to ensure that the natural and cultural resources, the open space, the scenic views, all of that will be protected and to some extent even restored. The conservation easement does restrict any type of housing or cabins. It also says that the land cannot be subdivided, upzoned, or used for other things like golf courses and cemeteries. It does, however, allow for up to a 5-acre interpretive center, which you folks will actually help us to define what this is. It doesn't have to be a physical structure. It could just be a space. You'll also help us to identify where this up to 5-acre interpretive center should go. But since acquiring these lands, Livable Hawaii Kaihui has begun with some clearing and outplanting and clearing up actually a lot of golf balls. And this, especially in this front area at the end of Mokuhano Street, is the area they've been working on. They also have their annual Kaiwi explorations, which are the guided hikes that they do for the public, and the next ones are coming up in November, I think the weekend of the 16th and 17th. And so the purpose of those are really to just welcome the public and educate them about these lands and its resources. So currently there's 2 main ways to access this parcel. For the explorations, they're only accessing it from that from Mokuhano Street on the western parcel. There is some unpermitted hiking that's happening. And those people are mostly accessing these lands from across the Makapu Lookout. So that's another thing we'll be talking about in a later core working group meeting, is managing public access and how to secure the property. So in 2022, ACOS completed a flora and fauna study for the Kaiwi Coast Mauka lands. And so this site was mostly covered in koahaole, kiawe, and guinea grass. They did find, though, a number of native and endemic plants, some just individually on their own, and then some pockets that were kind of spread out. So there were some of these ones that are on the screen here, a'ali'i, ko'oloa, kea, uhaloa, pili grass, Nile, and ilima. They did also find a single wili wili tree and also some patches of kawelu grass. In terms of fauna, they only saw non-native birds on the site, but they were able to see some native seabirds in the distance, but they did say that those birds wouldn't be utilizing any of this lands for habitat. One interesting thing that was found was that the western parcel, the one on the left, had significantly more vegetation, native vegetation than the eastern parcel. And this was most likely because that eastern parcel was actually heavily disturbed back in the Kaiser days. And so a lot of the landscape was destroyed when they created a few coral roads throughout the mid-1800s, which cut all across the valley. And we actually did a site visit and can still see the coral kind of all spread out across the mountain. But in addition to this flora and fauna study, Livable Hawaii Kaihui also contracted Noho Papa, a cultural resource management firm, to conduct a cultural landscape study of these lands. So they'll be doing some archival research and looking into the Hawaiian language newspaper and just finding any like old stories, oli, or any mele that might be associated with this area. Then they'll also be on the ground surveying any physical sites or features that they find. And just so you know, we'll be asking Noho Papa to attend one of the later core working group meetings to share what they find. So I do quickly want to acknowledge some of the previous planning work that was done for the Kaiwi Coast. Townscape, this was before I was there, Gabby was actually a part of this, helped Livable Hawaii Kaihui and the Kaiwi Coalition with creating a corridor management plan for the Mauna Lua to Makapu'u State Scenic Byway. And then there's also, of course, the East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan, which is part of Livable Hawaii Kaihui's mission to uphold that. And so these are just all things that we'll be tying in where we can and just kind of emphasizing connectivity and continuity along the Kaiwi coast. So we're just, as Townscape, excited that we can continue planning for the coastline, and we're just honored to be able to work with all of you on this plan. So the purpose of this plan is to preserve and protect the cultural and natural resources of the Kaiwi Coast Mauka lands with respect to the entire contiguous Kaiwi coast. So we just started this project last month. We're just beginning with some background research. Beginning with some background research as well as outreach with stakeholders. And so these are just kind of one-on-one talk stories with different agencies, organizations, and individuals who are all stewarding areas along the Kaiwi coast. Just kind of recognizing that in order to properly manage a space, you cannot just put up four walls and just look inside the room, or we can't just look inside only the boundaries of this land. We have to look outside of that. And we all know, just living on an island, how connected everything is from Mauka to Makai. And so a key focus of this management plan is establishing and strengthening relationships with those that are doing the awesome work around us and just taking care of Aina. So we're doing a bulk of the talk stories this month, and then trying to wrap it all up by the end of November. And then we're also doing these core working group meetings with you folks. And this first core working group meeting is just to introduce you folks to the project. The next four will be kind of developing the content of the plan, really just get into the management strategies. And then the final meeting will be where we share the draft plan. And so in that final meeting, we'll also invite all of the stakeholders that we met with. And then we're aiming to have the final management plan completed by the end of summer next year. I'm just going to share some highlights from the stakeholders that we've already spoke with. So first we have Friends of Hanauma Bay. They're the advocacy group for Hanauma Bay. And so one key takeaway from our meeting with them was just the importance of messaging and sharing about the connectivity of the entire Kaiwi coast. So really just sharing that Hanauma Bay is a part of this contiguous coast. And just, again, that point of looking at the whole scope rather than just focusing on just the Mauka lands. We also met with Parley for the Ocean. So they manage a 3/4 acre area. They have an adopt-a-park agreement with the city right next to Sandy Beach. And they kind of expressed the benefit of just sharing plants, because a lot of people along this coastline are doing like native outplanting. And then also they emphasize the need for a nursery that's located in Kaiwi, just because Kaiwi is has such hot, dry climate. And so to be able to raise plants in this climate, they'll have a much higher success rate when they do outplant them. We also met with the Sierra Club Oahu group. So they're the ones working on the opposite side of Sandy Beach. Across from Irma's, they got those boulders installed that are protecting those sand dunes. They're also doing some invasive species removal as well as some outplanting. And so they shared a really cool technique that they do, so they don't actually plant like seedling or saplings. They use this like seed scattering method, and they've been able to have a much higher success rate because of that. So that's something that we might be able to implement for the Mauka lands. We also met with 808 Cleanups. So they have a volunteer agreement with state parks. And so they're kind of managing right now just a 15-acre area. They've been there for about 10 years, focused mostly by Kaloko Inlet. And they're also doing some invasive species removal, native outplanting, but their main focus is just to expand the habitat of the Nalomeli maoli, or the native yellow-faced bee. And so a couple cool points that they had brought up was being able to expand the bee habitat up into the Mauka lands by creating like a corridor of native plants. So planting native plants, working with the golf course to plant native plants through there and then up into the Mauka lands. They also mentioned the importance of place names. So I know a lot of you mentioned how you love to stand up at the mountain and look down at the ocean. So that was one thing they had recommended too, was when we are bringing people up Mauka, to use that as an opportunity to view the shoreline and to point out all the different Hawaiian place names along the coast. And then we met with State Parks, who manages that entire Kaiwi State scenic shoreline, including the Makapu'u Lighthouse Trail. And they just really emphasize the importance of a sustainable funding source for once after this plan is complete to be able to implement all of this. How it's important to have parking and like a plan for parking and human waste management before you open it up to the public. And then also to design trails to reduce erosion and to allow for a variety of users, so your avid hikers to Kupuna. This last week, we also met with State DOT and Hawaii Kai Strong, and we're also planning to meet with the Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization, Honolulu Fire Department, City and County Parks and Rec, DLNR Dofa, Hiko, the Hawaii Kai Golf Course, and the Kalima Ohana. And so now we're at our core working group meeting. So we're at the first one. So the purpose of today's meeting is to share the project scope, schedule, and planning process, to familiarize the group with the Kaiwi Coast Mauka lands and its resources, understand any major issues and concerns for the area. Our next meeting will be to draft a vision statement and resource management goals. Our third meeting, the following next year, will be to share findings from the stakeholder outreach, identify restoration and propagation strategies for endemic plant species. Fourth meeting will be to provide input on strategies for conserving, preserving, protecting, and restoring archaeological, cultural, and historic features. So this is where we'll invite Noho Papa to join us, and we'll also be identifying potential new trails. The fifth meeting will be to discuss future public access days, identify preliminary concepts for securing the property, and share ideas for an interpretive center. And then our final meeting will be that one where we'll share the draft management plan and invite all the stakeholders to that as well. But really, as core working group members, your role will be to provide expertise that's specific to the content of the management plan, these things that I just went through. And through each of these meetings, you'll help to guide us and to guide the management strategies that ultimately will support the vision of this land to protect it in perpetuity. So now we're going to go into our discussion. This is our discussion question. Given our goals for this management plan and what we aim to achieve, do you have any initial concerns or issues that we should be aware of? So I'm just going to stop sharing, and Gabby will pop this question in the chat. But quick show of hands, how many of you have actually been on these Mauka lands before? Almost everybody. Wow, it's pretty good. Okay. But yeah, if you guys can think about this question, concerns, issues, anything you want to point out to us in this process. Maybe it's people you think that we should really talk to, things that you think should be really discussed in an upcoming core working group meeting. If you guys have any questions too on what we shared or about this planning process, this is really just our first meeting, just to learn more about this plan and how its direction it's going in. Any thoughts? Or you can just say another favorite thing you like to do.
I can start.
Okay.
I was racking my brain, and the first thing that popped up was social media issues. And I know that Livable Hawaii Kaihui's done a great job whenever people sign the waiver to come access land. You know, they request no posting on social media of the views. But that's a tough one, because people want to share that view with other people, and then you get people coming that don't have permission because they think it's open. So I don't know how to deal with it, but it is kind of, to me, it's one of those wild cards, social media and how you deal with people wanting to photograph their experiences and share it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely been a challenge everywhere we go now. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Luca?
My question is, it seems like, a lot of different organizations that work already in conservation and things like that have been asked about the Mauka lands. But as, we do this work and we're hoping to bring more community to like visit these sites, however that is, the only access point currently is through a neighborhood. And so I just want to know if at any point we have like spoken to the community and the neighborhood and them about like, what do you want to see happen at this place? Or like, because I just worry. Hopefully one day we can have a parking lot and like, places that we can like house cars and things like that. But just to make sure that the community itself isn't being left out of these conversations or like the planning process.
Elizabeth, did you want to answer that one? You're muted.
I was going to say, yes, of course, since 2017, we've done outreach to the Mokuhanu specific area and larger Kalama Valley. We're always trying to find and connect with people, and just basic observation work, being on the land. Anybody that we see coming through the property, we introduce ourselves if we're there at the time. And I think, Luca, you've been there with me when we've seen that. So we understand the use of the land and how people in the immediate area use it to get through, either to go to the golf course, to do the loop, to go out towards Kalani Aniole, then come back around into Kalama Valley past Sandy Beach. We're aware of folks that use the trail because they have for quite some time. So we connect with them and try to establish a relationship. And then we did a few months ago mention at the neighborhood board about this management plan and how we are working towards Mokuhanu Street, putting up a fence, but not in consideration with the residents that do use the area in a particular way. So those are things that we're going to be working out. So to answer your question, we also have relationship with several of the retailers at the shopping center that also help carry our messaging. They have offered their space if we wanted to hold community meetings and stuff like that for the Kalama Valley area. So I think that as we get more along in this management plan, and as we have more to share, we certainly will let them know. Many of the residents in the immediate area are aware of the explorations, and some participate. And then to that end, I do want to mention there's a vacant parcel of land. The landowner has for 3 years in a row allowed us to use it for parking. And we're fortunate to be able to do that. And it's right in that area that we stage the porta potties for the hiking. Ultimately, having that land would be great, but we'll see what happens in the future. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, Todd.
Thanks for that, Elizabeth. And, I would just echo what Luca was saying in terms of concerns, and as a landowner ourselves, we deal with the trespassing issue, and we have historical areas, where people have used as trails, and over time, because of social media, they've been, heavily used to the point where we've had to shut them down. And part of that also was we don't have facilities. They're not part of Na'alahele. So there's all those concerns, as well as the impacts to the neighbors. That has probably been the primary driver for us, that and safety. But in areas like Mariners Ridge, for example, where you have 400 people on a given Saturday coming and hiking on an area that was not designed for that, and then harassing the neighbors that live there, the community themselves, when they, ask them, hey, don't have a picnic on my front lawn, things like that. And so I hope that those are some of the things that we start to consider in terms of managing access. And I know, for example, places like, well, DLNR, I believe is like working on managed access for, say, the Lanikai Pillbox, trail because of the heavy use and the fact that now people are moving outside of the actual trailhead and using alternate routes to gain access to the same place. And those are just my initial thoughts.
Yeah, thank you for bringing those up. Oh, Elizabeth.
I wanted to also just put out a reminder that we don't know everybody in Kalama Valley. So if anybody knows anybody that wants to get plugged in, you just make sure that you send them our way. And I do want to mention that of some of these people that we've observed using the area, the trailhead, or cutting through, I've converted. It seems like a low number, but I think it's an important number. I have 4 people now that text me, may I go on the trail? These are people that would normally just go. And so this morning I had one say, oh, I'm going to go with my dogs. And I said, well, hold up. We have Hawaii Trail and Mountain Club doing trail work. So good for you not to go today. So that level of intimacy with a neighborhood is really important. And so we're building that and we're doing that. I think that it's important given the nature of the trailhead and where it's located. And I do want to also say that just because there's a parcel of land that we could use to help ease the stresses for parking and other needs, doesn't mean that we're going to drive frequent use of that trailhead. I think it's important that controlled access is important. And our organization believes in controlled access when you're working within landscapes that are well within densely populated areas. So I just wanted to preference that. Thank you.
I think, just just an idea as well. It's great to see there's many like stakeholders and partnerships involved in managing this Kaiwi Mauka lands. And then when I think of things like this, I kind of think of Uncle Preston in Kauai, in Ha'ena on Kauai, and how they kind of do their management of their access of tourists into their communities. And they station a shuttle service right by Waipa, and they manage the amount of people that can enter into the Ha'ena community, that can access their lands and their trails. And it's community driven. And when you look at the maps of Mauna Loa and you see, I know it's KS owned, but that vacant land, not vacant, but this really open space land, shopping center in Kalama Valley that can act as that means. Where, for heavy days where Little Hoi Kaihui may be doing these large events, or as this landscape becomes more well known and this trail becomes more well known, you can start up that type of shuttle service. So you're not impeding on the Mokuhano people or the Waikapu Loop people in that community where, I mean, everyone can park at that shopping center and then Little Hoi Kaihui can have these little 16 passenger vans that kind of just go to drop off and leave. Similar to what Ha'ena people do on Kauai. So it's just a model that I think a lot of communities are now picking up on to help manage. So not everyone is driving down Mokuhano to ride, like it's just kind of a little bit of a more sustainable method. Just a thought, an idea to check into.
Yeah, that's we actually looked into that too for another project of visitor management. I think that's something that might have to, will definitely come up to the table again, especially talking about the issue of parking and how kind of currently the Hawai'i Kaihui is relying on that other parcel, and if they aren't able to acquire it or something else, there's other plans for that parcel, then they lose that parking, and so then they might have to, look for that alternative. Thank you for suggesting that.
I was wondering if anyone is looking into parcel 2 and how that comes down to the highway and if that could be a better access point, or not. I'm not sure. but if that's just a consideration for access.
When we met with DOT, we highlighted that and shared with them that we connect too. I think it needs to be explored, and I would my first thought is before we drive any sort of hiking access through there, and people do go through there. Well, I think we know that already. Fencing is important because we also spoke with DOT at great lengths about how there's that ebb and flow of parking along Kalanianiole. It's there because people are going up, they're going here, they're going there, and then all of a sudden there's nobody parking on Kalanianiole. And we were pleased to hear, I think it was the DLNR had said that it is what it is and it's fine. You know, we're never gonna have enough parking to fulfill the needs of that entire area. So for us, if we were to start bringing hiking through that way, we have to definitely think about off-site parking, like we arrange something with the golf course and then we hoof it, because we don't want to encourage any more of that Kalanianiole type of thank you for that parking and then walking up into the mountain. But it's definitely to be explored as an additional access point. Yep, you see where it is, everybody. Yeah, don't go rush out there now. And if you do, let us know what you find.
So the guardrail stops, I think, like right at the end of this. This was that original in the proposed Kaiwi cabins. This was going to be an access point.
Right.
So I think that's why that's there. But it gets pretty steep right away. Like there's no way anyone could drive.
No, it's all by foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anyone thinking of our list of who we talked to and who we're going to talk to? Is there any folks you can think of that you really think we should touch base with?
I can't think of anyone else immediately other than the ones that are the nearest landowners. But one that's not involved in this, and it's a little farther away, but it is an adjacent landowner, is DHHL. They own Mauka lands adjacent to ours, but they also own all of Makapu'u, including the face, and then just even though it is far, but once you start getting to the top of your parcel or was that parcel 47, I think?
Parcel 2.
Is that what you guys call it, parcel 2? I'm looking at the TMK maps. It's not.
The
one on the right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, DHHL does own adjacent to us and kind of connecting around there all the way down to Sea Life Park.
Great idea. Do you think do you have a recommendation on who Townscape might reach out to?
So I think the land agent is Shelley Carrera, I believe. But it's a land management division, LMD.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah. I don't know their appetite to want to do anything different or to even be involved, but I'm just throwing it out there. Eventually, out of consideration, I would think that we would want to have a discussion with them.
I think it's a great
definitely.
idea.
Even just to let them know that we're doing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sorry, they are the landowners of Makapu'u and all, but it actually is licensed to the city, to Parks and Rec, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Mm. Mm. I think.
Just wondering, some people to talk to, yes, KS owns many of the parcels adjacent to the parcels that we're talking about, but have you talked to the golf course, Hawai'i Golf Course? Because they do they are adjacent to many of these parcels.
Yeah, we
I'm-
reached out to them. We're trying to schedule a meeting with them right now. So
And I have to say that we have a good relationship with them, and they're very supportive of our explorations, to the tune of they'll let, or if we're doing any kind of work out there, we could use their bathroom. And if I ask for a golf course, or golf cart or two, they'll loan them to us. So Keith's been very responsive, and yeah, we're good neighbors, other than the golf balls, but we're still working on that. So it just kind of comes with the property. Havea came with a bunch of tennis balls. It just comes with, you just deal with it. So
Anne Marie, were you
Well,
gonna say something?
Oh.
Oh, sorry, Jennifer, were you not? You can finish it.
I was gonna say you might want to talk to them, and when you talk to them, well, I can't speak for them. You might want to talk about some of your ideas for activity, because it seems like they have facilities and parking that could accommodate more activities that you wouldn't have to reduplicate, and they
Yeah.
could actually be very complementary to some of your ideas.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
thank you. Yep, I'll tell you, some of our thinking went that way. So absolutely, Laura, thank you.
Anne Marie.
I was just kind of listening and going over the issues and concerns. And one, I don't know, it just kind of struck me is that we look at Kaiwi from Makapu'u to Hanama, those waters that touch, but it feels so fragmented in this discussion. It feels like Kaiwi is in these slices. We have, the Hui, KS, Stage, Shell, as we go down line, and the different community groups. So for me, just kind of looking at it like in this process, how to get a more holistic approach to all these groups working along this coastline. And in sort of the biggest area, like that open space is below that parcel 2 and then the Makai lands. So, but if we can kind of all be on the same page and know what's happening, I think that's really good. And then one of the discussions we've had, is place names, and it came up. Vavamalu, traditionally it's a Vavamalu, but we're still in dealing with groups who are like, this is a traditional name. And we're like, well, this is what Kopuna are saying, so we can honor both names. And they're not open to that. And I think that also becomes a bit of an issue. And then also recognizing Mauna Lua as its own ahupua'a, which has been done. And still, there's a couple groups maybe that still, want to talk story about that. But I think, my overall concern is as we move towards what best happens at Mauka, that it becomes something that goes along the whole coastline. So we're joined together, not like these separate pieces. And I hope I'm not out of line or taking away from what we're thinking, but I mean, that's how I kind of feel like Kaiwi is fragmented from a Western idea of standpoint. So that's all.
Yeah.
Can I, Rachel, I just want to say one thing about working with, we chose Townscape for this because of the work that they did on the corridor management plan, that state document, with the community. And then because of how they worked with the community on the East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan. But then they easily embraced when we spoke to them about a management plan and how it needed to kind of go outside of the boundaries, and to include Makai and other aspects of the continuous coastline. That being said, I didn't anticipate that they would literally, when they were starting to engage with the different stakeholders that they had listed, that they'd volunteer with them because they really wanted to understand and experience. I'm mentioning that to you right now, well, to everybody, and in answer to Anne Marie, because a conversation that we had with Townscape, and Rachel can talk more about it, is that they were asking these stakeholder groups about tools and connectivity and future collaboration and what that looked like. And some things started becoming identified. And you can see already that they're recognizing the benefit of working together and having conversations, if not twice a year, at least once a year, collectively coming up with funding to do certain projects that we all agree with. So I wanted to share that because that speaks to what Anne Marie was mentioning. And I don't think, we're so fortunate to have Townscape that's going to be able to help. We're going to use this as that opportunity, that synergy that we're going to try to continue to move forward on into the future. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Emery, for bringing that up. I think for me, at least, I'm so used to now with Townscape writing such official reports, and that's how we have to write it is split up into whose jurisdiction, and so that's where my mind has been lately. But I really support you kind of reminding me of how looking at the bigger picture. And I don't know if you have specific ideas now of how we can incorporate that into the actual management plan. But if not, you don't have ideas now, we can talk more about it later. But I do really agree of looking at it in the big picture and also acknowledging the Kaiwi is part of the Kaiwi channel too and how that all connects. But yeah, thank you.
One of the tools that the stakeholders liked was knowing that there was a Kaiwi website that they could be represented on, as well as history, cultural and natural resource, education. But that was pretty cool. So those are the kind of cool things that are coming out of those stakeholder meetings that we're going to put into the management plan.
Any other thoughts or questions?
Well, this is really outside the box, but I thought I would mention it because it popped into my head. The paragliders that use that area, they usually take off from below Makapu'u. There's a couple different launch zones, but they have in the past, I don't know if they do it anymore, hiked up the hill and had permission to jump off up there as well. So I don't know if that's a group to reach out to. I have a connection there if you needed that contact, but they're a great group and maybe you could get some aerial photos from them. I don't know.
Todd, do you guys have any connection with them, or have you had any of them approach you?
No. So the Hawaii Hang Gliding Association actually launches from Kamehame Ridge from our property. We have a license to do that, but we're not connected to what they do down below Makapu'u.
Okay.
As you turn the bend, and to be honest,
Yeah.
I don't even know how safe that is where they do that there. I've seen them crash on the highway. Yeah, I don't know. That's just my own personal, but I don't have a connection though with those people using that, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, Hawkins, if you do have a connection, if you could email that to me, maybe then if we
Absolutely.
do
And
end up doing.
just to clarify, the hang gliders are very different from the paragliders. And I know they've worked really hard over the years. The president of the paragliders, really amazing guy, to kind of repair their bad reputation for a few flyers who will crash that aren't even part of Hawaii, that just come to visit and don't know what they're doing. And so it's tough that they kind of have that reputation for being, you look at them and you think they're risk takers or whatever it is, but they are really amazing community of people that are pretty devoted to being safe as they can and teaching good just morals and ethics to their flyers. So yeah, hopefully we can get some feedback maybe if you're interested.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. Thank you. We have 5 more minutes and then we'll kind of wrap up. Any final thoughts? Okay, well, if that's all everyone has, then I guess we can just wrap it up already. But if you guys think of anything else, you can always email me or reach out if you have late night ideas that I don't know when people get their ideas. But I'm just gonna share my screen again. Okay, so our next core working group meeting is scheduled right now for December 11th, that Wednesday. It'll be a little longer from 3 to 4:30 because this one will be in person. I did want to ask though, since it is getting close to the holidays, I don't know if it's easier for you people to meet virtual or if you guys would prefer, but I guess how many of you can raise your hands if you prefer virtual. If not, then it would be nice to see you all face to face. But our next year meetings will definitely be in person. But yeah, I guess if you prefer a virtual meeting, could you raise your hand?
Is it possible to do both? Because sometimes, you know, some of us have to be in multiple places where I could take a virtual, if I can't be there in person, but I could take a virtual at the same time. It just depends on the day.
Yeah, okay. I guess we can think about that. Elizabeth, do you know if the Mariners Cove Bay Club has Wi-Fi?
It is, and it's not the best. That was my only concern is that's a good space if we're in person and you can shoot off the wall, but we've had issues in the past with meetings and Wi-Fi. Just FYI, so on that one.
Okay, I guess we can look into it more to see if there would be a way to do a virtual meeting. If not, it sounds like most people want to go with the in-person meeting. I can also gauge the people that I follow up with who weren't able to attend and see. So just look out for my email, but it will be December 11th from 3 to 4:30. And if you have any questions, feel free to email or call. And that's it. Thank you guys all for taking the time to be here today. And we're excited to embark on this journey with you all.
Thank
Mahalo,
you.
Rachel.
Okay.
Mahalo.
See you
Thank
in
you.
December.
Thank you.
Ahoy ho.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.